Hello, welcome back. It's been forever. My hair is now like mermaid green, blue-ish colored. So today I thought I was going to be doing a video specifically about the New Age tarot, but when I got it, I thought the art looks really familiar, and I thought that it looked like this tarot deck. I understand that the name is potentially problematic, but I'll explain more about it when we get a little further down. They are drawn, created, illustrated, painted by the same person, Walter Wegmuller. Really cool. He is still alive. He is 83 years old, I believe. And as far as I could tell, he still lives in Switzerland. This was the first deck that he created. And I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do is a side-by-side of the two of them at the same time. So you can see, because even though they're very similar, they do look, even the art style is slightly different. So the older one originally was put out in a really big format like this. It's exactly the same backs and everything. Very big cards. I mean, like, really big. I'll compare them just for the sake of comparison whenever I do the, like, actual walkthrough. The big deck was put out with an album that Walter Wegmuller created and put out. So, while the term gypsy, I fully understand, is hurtful to some people, Walter Wegmuller referred to himself as that, and I think that that's why the deck is called that. Like, I'm not sure if he was actually Romani or if he just identified with that kind of lifestyle. Not even that, I understand, sounds kind of problematic. I don't know if he, like, identified with the kind of traveler lifestyle that people associate with that word or that term or those people, or if he really was Romani. That was unclear. All I know is that he referred to himself as that several times in several things that I read. So, he was a painter, specifically. He worked in oil paint. That is his profession. That's what he enjoyed. But he also enjoyed all things esoteric and was very much into the tarot. So, he created this tarot deck in between 1968 and 1972. And then shortly after that, some of the people that he was around were musicians, apparently very popular musicians. They came from several different bands, but I guess Walter knew kind of all of them independently, so he kind of picked and chose which people he wanted to play bass, who he wanted to do percussion, that kind of thing. And they created a little group called the Cosmic Jokers. Basically, he's hanging out with all these musicians. They're all kind of really into getting into the tarot and that kind of thing. So they encouraged him to basically compose an album that would go with his tarot deck. The album got put out. He made it. It has 22 tracks. It's 2 double LPs. They were produced and sold as a box set. So it was the 2 double LPs with the 22 tracks, each track one for each of the major arcana. Then it also came with a full set of his tarot cards, and then from what I could tell from pictures and things, it looks like, aside from coming with that large tarot deck, it also came with like a separate 22 card sheet of, you know, all of the different 22 major arcana, and the backs of those cards were kind of like a grab bag. They were a different back, and it was all pictures of, it almost looked like a stencil, kind of like Andy Warhol style stencil of each of the band members. So depending on which box set you got, you could have gotten, you know, Walter Wegmuller on the back. You could have gotten the drummer for the backs of your 22 Major Arcana set. The album was put out under the genre experimental space rock. So basically it was a blend of psychedelic rock and very, very early electronic music. So it's a really cool mix. It's not how you would imagine. I tried to find it to listen to it. It's not on iTunes. It looked like you could buy it on Amazon, but the way that it was all worded was kind of unclear. And I know that they did put it out again as a CD, a double CD set. So it was the same kind of setup, but it was a CD version instead of a vinyl. This album is largely considered to be a masterpiece. It is kind of hard to come by. It sells for thousands and thousands of dollars because it apparently is amazing, fantastic. People love it a lot. It was one of the first times that an LP was put out with like extra content and other things besides just the LP. So that alone made it, I'm sure, pretty valuable because it was an entire experience. It wasn't just, it wasn't just an LP. So I did some research. I tried to find it. I couldn't find it to buy. I didn't see that at all. Someone, I'm not sure where, I'm not sure who, has uploaded a video to YouTube. I'll link that below so that you can go and see if you're interested. The music is really cool. It's like, it isn't what I expected it to be. Walter Wegmuller is doing the vocals, but he's not singing. He kind of just like talks over this track that was created about each of the majors, and really talks about that particular card, like what the symbolism is, it's cool. It's really cool. So I'll link that below. And what's nice about it is it's like partially, sometimes he's talking in English, sometimes he's speaking in German. So it's kind of a hit or miss. I wish that there was a way, like I wish that I either knew German or there was a way to translate the video so that I could like at least read along in English what he was saying about it. But if that exists, I don't know how to do it. Everything that I read says that the larger black box version came out in 1972, which would make sense because that is the time that he finished creating the deck in the first place. Now, fast forward a little, and this deck came out in 1982. So, this is what I believe is the timeline. It was hard to figure out like why he would have another deck so quickly, because this deck also is copyright 1982. So what I think happened is the success of that album obviously brought the tarot kind of in the forefront, at least musically, more than it had been, because that was the entire theme of this box set that people hadn't seen before, and everyone really loved, / still loves, and still honestly tries to collect, but can't find. So, After all of that success, I believe what happened is he got a book deal through AGM. I could not find a picture of the book. I couldn't find any information about the book. All I know is that I read that he had a book deal, and the book is called New Age Tarot, except in German. So, well, you get it. Anyway, that's the same title as the book. So it made it hard to find the book, because if you Google either the German text or New Age Tarot, this is what you get. You don't get the book. I think that the publisher, at the same time that they were making the book and everything, they probably proposed to him that it come out with a deck. And rather than put out the same deck that he just put out with the album, he worked on a whole new deck. So these are both copyright 1982, and I think that's because AGM also produced this deck, and I think they just re-released this at the same time that his other deck and book came out to make it available. This was produced by a whole different publisher in Switzerland. These were both produced in Belgium by AGM, Urania. Yeah. So, that is the story with that. So I'll link that video so that you can go and watch, and hear the album. Just know that you're only going to understand some of it unless you speak German too. And if you do, fantastic. Translate it, share it, let me know what he's saying, because I am really interested in that in particular. So, that is the New Age Tarot and the Gypsy Tarot. I don't know what that last word means. It's apparently also known as it's been rebranded, basically, with the Gypsy Tarot at the top, but the bottom still says this. Zierner Tarot. Yeah, so I'm going to do a walkthrough. It'll probably just be the two smaller decks because they're the same size, so it'll be easier to flip through them and do that. So I'm going to flip the camera. Okay, so this is the original 1972 release of this deck. Oh, that's interesting. It is produced by AGM. Okay, originally I thought that it wasn't because the publisher, as you can see here, yeah, there we go. I guess that's just the person who has the copyright. I don't know who that person is. But it has two extra cards. They both just have the same backs. Originally, I got the larger version because, the detail on it is pretty small. Okay, so here it is compared to a regular standard tarot. As you can see, it's it's even bigger than Oracle size, really. But, yeah, so that is the 1972 version. This I got before I realized that the album even existed. This is the reprint. As far as I can tell, it's still out of print. This I got literally, I think I paid $20 for it, maybe $25 on eBay, and it was fully sealed. Okay, so this deck has, I'm just going to put this over here, Cardamundi, Urania, AGM, they're all the same. So it has two extra cards as well. And then it has a little white book. That looks like it's fully in German, but it also was distributed by US Games. But this still has their New York address, so I guess, yeah, that makes sense because they were at 38 East 32nd until like the 90s, I believe. But yeah, the little white book is in German, so not really any use to me. I'm trying to think of how I can do this and still have you be able to see. I'll keep that there just so you can tell. And then the okay, and then we have the New Age Tarot. Literally everything about the box looks almost the same as the other one. And then it also has, these are the backs of these. Okay. And then it has the 2 extra cards, except these 2 extra cards, even though the decks came out at the same time, these extra cards are have more information about like other tarot decks and stuff. The other ones were more just looked like kind of informational about the publisher. Here is a standard tarot. So it is as wide as a regular tarot card, but it's a little shorter. And that goes for both decks. They're exactly the same size. No difference at all. Okay, so I'll just put that one right there. Okay. I might try to zoom in a little. Yeah. Okay, so we have our Fools. And you can see he obviously I almost need to do a separate video for each one so you can see the details on all the cards, but in this deck, the New Age Tarot, he focused more on the borders, kind of, and in the Gypsy Tarot, it's a lot of like pointillism. It looks like all of his little dots on here have been kind of like smoothed out and refined a little. So there's our Fools. Our Magicians, you can see, are still pretty similar. The hats are pretty similar. The table are both still kind of like in the infinity sign. There's a High Priestess. The Empress. The Emperor. So, I mean, there are similarities, but not enough that I would say you just needed to get one deck. Like, I wouldn't say, you know, you're good if you just have one. I think it's cool to have both because they're different vantage points. I mean, they're just, they kind of evoke different feelings because they're just different. I think that the Gypsy Tarot is a little more kind of chaotic looking. It's a little more like to focus on. And then the New Age Tarot is it's just like the refined sister deck, basically. So the Chariot. Okay, so we have Justice. The Hermit. The Wheel of Fortune. So similar, but like not quite. Strength. The Hanged Man. Death. Temperance. The Devil. The Tower. Much more elaborate and kind of like really 80s looking on the New Age Tarot. The Stars instead of just one star. The Moon. This is kind of a more traditional looking moon than this, even though, I mean, they both are, but like the colors of this are a little more. The Sun. Judgment. The World. Alright, and then we go into the Wands. And I think that the minors are really where the deck kind of like separates and looks really different. The New Age Tarot has lots of faces in the minors. But like, they're really cool. They're both really cool. It's a little easier, I think, to look at the New Age Tarot and see how many it is, since it's kind of pippish, because you can kind of count the faces. Whereas like on the Gypsy Tarot, you have to like kind of really be looking for it. Kind of a creepy looking little queen. Okay, and then we have the Pentacles. This is cool, you kind of have a little yin and yang effect. The Pentacles are more similar to each other than the Wands, for sure. But I guess there's only so many ways you can organize, you know, these. This is kind of cool. It has all these little, like, representative kind of words. The court cards are kind of hard to tell in the Gypsy Tarot. It's kind of hard to tell the page from the Knight and the Queen and the King because they all look so similar. The New Age is a little... That's an interesting take. Like, he's a bank teller. Or I guess, you know, giving someone a loan. And then here's our king. Obviously he has everything. It looks like a talk show. Alright, and then we go to our swords. It's so cool to me that, like, he created 2 different tarot decks within, I mean, I'm guessing within 10 years of each other. And there are people who take 10 years just to create one, or, you know, could never have created a second one. Because it's so labor intensive and time consuming, and I feel like it would be hard to reimagine the cards once you created the card the way that you kind of saw it in your head. It seems like it would be hard to get out of your head to create another version of it. And now we're in the cups. They're my favorite, always. There's just so much detail. He was really good at like cramming in the detail. And the kings. Alright, so that has been the tarot decks of Walter Wegmuller. I'm not sure if he has more than just these two. These are the only two I could find or see. They're both pretty readily available on eBay. And I mean, they aren't typically super expensive. And both of my copies actually were like still fully sealed, so it's available, it's out there. Again, you just have to look. Yeah, so thanks for watching.